say you have a set of toolboxes. One toolbox has hammers, high-grade hammers made out of vibranium from Wakanda and the highest end titanium. These are the best hammers you can get in the market. Then the other box has 8 different tools. And all of these 8 different tools, you have a wrench, you have a saw, you have an axe. All of these different tools are made of standard material rather than high-grade steel. And they're all used and worn out. Given these two toolboxes, which box would you choose? Now, probably the answer will be dependent on what you want to do with them. If all you want to do is just hammer and nail in the whole day, then you would choose the superior vibranium titanium hammer. But if you're looking to do something more complex, like building a shed, you'd want an array of tools, such as the worn out but diverse tools. And this really speaks to some of Scott Page's work on the power of diversity. Scott Page talks about this concept called superadditivity. Superadditivity is this idea that the whole in diversity is greater than the sum of the parts. So in other words, the diverse tools offer exponentially more possibilities of outcomes than the same type of tool like a hammer, no matter how high the quality of that individual tool. And he also argues that the more complex the problem, the higher the superadditivity. Because the more complex the problem, the more array of tools you have in solving that particular problem. And I think this is very important for diversity, equity, and inclusion, because it helps us understand that diversity, when done right, helps us get better, helps us work better, and helps us solve all the complex problems that we have, not just in the workplace, but in the world as a whole. But as you know me, we can't just talk about race without eating anti-racist food. Welcome to the Anti-Racist Hot Dog Show. I am your host, Wandile Mthiyane, and I am excited about the next segment where we're going to meet up with our chef and learn about a new African culture through African cuisines. Ladies and gentlemen, Chef Pali Pali. Chef Pali Pali, welcome back to the show. We're excited to have you.
It's great to be back.
What are we making? What culture are we exploring today within the African continent?
Okay, so I have Tswana heritage in me.
Okay.
Which is sort of around the area of Botswana.
Botswana,
yeah,
yes.
but it feeds into
Botswana
South
land.
Africa as well.
Yes.
And I know other Southern African cultures do have this because generally in Africa we eat the whole animal.
Not just the parts.
No, not just the meat.
Not just the chicken breast.
Insides, yeah.
Everything.
Else.
The feet
neck,
too.
the heart, the brain, everything.
We're holistic about it.
Exactly. So today we have some chicken livers.
Ooh.
Yeah, and chicken livers have very unique sort of consistency and texture.
Okay.
If you overcook them, they're mushy.
Uh-huh.
So you have to leave them with a little bite.
For
So
sure.
you have to fry them off, take them off, make your sauce, put them back in, so that's a well-cooked liver, not overcooked liver.
100%. What
Yeah.
ingredients do you have then?
Okay,
Just the
so
array.
very simple. We're making a creamy peri-peri chicken liver dish.
Yes.
And
yes.
we're gonna have it with delicious steamed bread, which I'll teach you how to make another time.
100%.
Okay.
Ujeka.
Ujeka.
Yes.
So we've got some olive oil first.
You add a little
Always
bit
the
of
base
oil.
is some
Yes.
good oil.
Ooh.
Oh, yum, yum, yum. Okay,
Nice.
that's good. Just swirl that around so that the whole pan
Just
gets
get that
equal
around.
pay.
Equity. That's what this is about.
Oh, equity. Okay. Geez, you're always just rattling the cage, eh?
That's what the show is about.
Okay, so I'm not going to subject you to this because
Yeah.
I'm not sure what kind of vegetarian you are.
Yeah.
So
You
I
don't want to
will...
hurt my feelings. So look, I'll leave you to do this
Exactly.
meat thing as I go talk about racism.
This meat thing.
Thank you for coming to the show. I'll see
Cheers,
you.
Wandile.
Hey everybody, welcome to the only cooking show that serves you with African cuisines and a side of anti-racism. I'm your host, Wandile Mthiyane, and today we're tackling a very important topic, and that is how does this affect me? You may be sitting there thinking to yourself, why am I even watching this at work? But how does this affect my work? How does anti-racism affect my work? And to get into this conversation, we're joined by our senior, how does this affect my work correspondent, Bianca Dlamini. Ladies and gentlemen, Bianca Dlamini. Bianca, such a pleasure to have you.
Nice to see you again.
Welcome back to the show. It's always looking beautiful as usual.
Thank you so much for having me again. Hey.
It's always fascinating because when we're here, we're talking about deep topics,
Yes.
right? And today we're talking about a topic that I know you're very familiar with. And this idea is, how does racism or anti-racism affect my workplace? So we've been talking about, does racism exist? What is racism? Why should I care? But what does all of this have to do with my work? I'm an engineer, I'm an architect, I'm a coder. What does this have to do with work?
This is illustrated in the makeup of teams.
Yeah.
So diverse groups solving problems will very frequently outperform groups of exceptional individuals who have diversity in their approach to the problem.
Is this a lot like sort of the study about the Medici family?
Yeah.
And how they brought together all of these people from different cross disciplines, architects to
Yes.
scientists to artists, which led to the period now we know it as the Renaissance.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about this.
So
How are diverse groups better?
well, you see, it's always illustrated through the makeup of teams.
Okay, like teams within the workplace.
Teams within the workplace.
Sure,
so
sure.
Basically, diverse groups
Uh-huh.
would always outperform homogeneous ones at, solving complex problems.
Is this similar to this idea of the Medici effect, where the Medici family brought together architects and sculptors and all these people from different disciplines to sort of come and work together?
Definitely. So this concentration of all these expertise and all these, experts in one place, definitely led to cross-fertilization of knowledge.
And I can imagine, because you have architects, you've got sculptors, you got people from
one place.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and that is what led to what we now called the Renaissance. It's all these people in one place, just,
Such an important period that came out of that, which has shaped architecture, music, culture.
So, for those who don't know what the Medici effect or era is, it's basically the concept of, if you need people to do this, if you hire people that you don't need to think, you don't need to think. All you need them to do is do the same thing.
Like hammer and nail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, that means that maybe you just need a new tool.
Sure.
But if you need a team, or if you're looking for people that are going to be solving complex problems, then, or maybe you need them to, increase or improve your business model.
Yeah, yeah.
And increase your yield on sales or return on investment. Complex problems.
Yeah.
Then maybe you need to start looking at what is actually missing in the boardroom, what voice is missing in the boardroom. That is why it's so important for that diversity to be there.
I can't have an all-white male team selling female products, right? Or even an all-black man team selling female products without women in the table.
Exactly.
Because that voice is pivotal to what that product ends up look like, but also it's a user experience voice.
Yes. So some may think that diversity is dangerous, that it could lead to a perpetual Tower of Babel, that
Confusion.
yes, riddled with conflict.
Yeah. But what's interesting is that studies show that conflict is not actually detrimental to performance, necessarily detrimental to performance. In fact, it could be beneficial, but it depends on the type of conflict.
Yes.
Right? So there's relationship-based conflict and there's task-based conflict. So task-based conflict is what's beneficial. So we're arguing or we're in conflict about what's the best way to solve the problem, what's the best way to move forward. So that diverse opinions and views actually leads us to the best solution.
Okay.
Whilst on the other end, relationship-based conflict is what's detrimental.
Okay.
In fact, in 2019, the study showed that diversity increased conflict, but also increased performance for those same teams.
Oh, wow, okay.
So conflict isn't necessarily bad.
It's not.
Yeah. So I guess a little Tower of Babel doesn't hurt anyone.
It doesn't hurt anybody at all.
We need to be I almost said we need to be discomfortable. We need to be uncomfortable to grow.
Definitely.
Right? When you were learning your ABCs, it was uncomfortable. This was new. But you needed them to be where we're at.
Growing pains. Wandile, if you look at it, Nim, extra efforts are needed for diversity, like they're front-loaded.
Yeah.
But in the long run, the disadvantages, or rather the advantages in the long run, far outweigh the disadvantages, because now you have a group of people that are able to, tackle diverse or complex problems, but now they know also how to coordinate and cooperate with one another.
And work with each other better because they've already gone through the growing pains of work. It's similar to what I talked about earlier, this idea of tools. If you just have a hammer, right, it is easier to learn the hammer and it is easier to use. But if you have a diverse set of tools, you have to learn the hammer, you have to learn, the wrench, you have to learn all of these different tools. So the effort is front-loaded in the sense that I have to work harder to learn all and master these tools rather than mastering one. But in the long run, I am able to do complex projects like building a shed versus just nailing a nail with a hammer. You know what I mean?
You've got it.
So Bianca, this is true for organizations as well. It is insufficient to just have diverse people in your organization, right? We need to also be able to then utilize and recognize these unique perspectives within this particular diverse team. This is the fundamental key or prerequisite of collective intelligence, or a concept called superadditivity. Essentially what superadditivity is this idea that the collective intelligence or the collective group far outweigh the individual. No matter how bright or smart that individual is, those collective experiences far outweigh, especially in solving complex problems. Now, how do we maximize the use of diverse people and this collective intelligence? What are things that we need to do in order for us to effectively harness our diversity to have impact within our organizations, but also to the world?
Carnegie Mellon, Professor Anita Woolley and her colleagues have 3 basic conditions that I would say principles that would work in any environment. And even outside of corporate, they would work.
Yeah.
So the first one would definitely be groups having a high level of, or obviously individuals in a group.
Yes.
Everybody in this group needs to have a level of emotional intelligence and social sensitivity. This is very important.
What's emotional intelligence?
Emotional intelligence is basically being able to read and know how another person's feeling. You might not know the essence of what's going on behind closed doors,
but you can take into consideration.
Take it into consideration. That is very important, because that will also help you deal with them better and understand them better, and understand that maybe just today this person's having a bad day, or maybe this person is giving this input based on whatever reason. So that social sensitivity and emotional intelligence is very important. Now, number 2, diversity cannot thrive without being heard, or being included. So inclusion is very important. You can't have a group full of experts or a room full of experts and not listen to them. That's the basic one, right?
You're wasting talent.
You're wasting talent because you're not allowing people to speak, and you're not listening and just giving people a proper opportunity to express whatever it is that they feel is a valuable input, okay? And then number 3 would be demographic diversity. This is also very important. I feel this is just a winner, basic winner, because once you have all these different people from different walks of life, and
so different genders, different races,
demographics, whatever, all in one room, you can only imagine the impact that would have on the decisions that are being taken because of their different experiences.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that hiring diverse people is not enough to actually make diversity work.
Exactly.
But what you actually need to take into consideration is how people feel accepted, if they feel valid, if they feel like you see their worth within the workplace. And that defines whether diversity and inclusion within your workplace is an asset or a liability.
Exactly, you've got it.
So it's interesting we talk about this because when you're looking at all these studies we're talking about, they all suggest that diversity inclusion works well, and all of these conditions, when they're put in place, work well in companies that care about diversity as a fundamental core to their business, rather than companies that care about it just as a business case. It's the companies who see it as a moral case where people feel included because they're like, well, these people see me as dignified as they are on a human level. That's important to them. So the three lessons I'm learning from our conversation, Bianca, is this idea of superadditivity, I can't even say it. Superadditivity, this idea that a small group of successful black people represents the whole black community as a whole. So in other words, looking at Jay-Z, looking at Stephen Curry, and looking at President Obama, and then someone can look at me and us and say, you know, we have the same level of wealth, or think that we're well off just because of them.
Yes.
And then I think, which is obviously not the case.
Yes, no.
And I think then the second lesson then goes into this idea of conflict.
It does not have to be detrimental to a team. It can actually be a huge advantage.
100%. So conflict is not necessarily detrimental to a team. In fact, it can increase a team's performance, but it depends on the type of conflict. If it's task-based conflict that helps a team solve problem, then yes, that will actually help the team. But if it's a relationship-based conflict, that is what's detrimental to the team. And then the third lesson that we're learning from today is?
The challenge in diversity.
The challenge in making diversity and inclusion work is the lack of inclusion. So to make diversity work, you need to have inclusion. And this is the fundamental idea where you create an environment where people feel valid, they feel they belong, their worth is appreciated, and as a result, they're able to communicate and add their unique perspective to the fold, which enables your team to be better and outperform other teams and create a lot of value for your company, for the community, and the world.
Oh, yes, you got it right.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to have you. We have a lot to think about, as always, from all of this wisdom. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sure.
All the best.
Thank you very much, and looking forward to having you next time. And that was our senior How Does This Affect My Work correspondent, Bianca Dlamini, dropping knowledge on us. As you know, the next segment of the show is by far my favorite segment. This is where we go and taste the food. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go catch up with Chef Pali Pali. Oh, the food is done. This looks beautiful. Is this sucheka?
Yes, this is uchekwe. This is the steamed bread,
Uh-huh.
nice and soft.
Yeah.
And this is the creamy chicken livers,
Ooh,
peri chicken livers.
looks delicious, but I can't eat it. We're going to have to find a camera person since I'm vegetarian. Camera number one, please. The eating man.
What it do? I'm basically the eating man now. Hey guys. How you doing, chef?
Good, thanks.
Okay.
These are peri chicken livers.
Okay.
And you can choose, hands or,
I think I'll use hands with this.
yes, definitely.
This is very nice.
Oh, thank you.
It's delicious.
I'm up
It's
for
great.
This is really good.
But you gotta rate it though. Is
I
it
do have
racist
to
or
rate it. I
anti-racist?
almost forgot. I'm
Yeah.
busy enjoying this.
Let's see what's the rating. Anti-racist.
Anti-racist.
This is
Awesome.
amazing.
Thank
It's
you.
the best, chef.
Thank you so
That's
much.
what we have it. Anti-racist hot dog with Chef Pali Pali. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
For sure.